Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, as just introduced by Gwyneth, this presentation is to introduce the concept of operational suitability data, what we call usually OSD. And in fact, this OSD concept is part of the operational certification of the aircraft. In fact, the OSD concept is for you, operators, training organization. It is there to help you to obtain and to maintain a given operational approval. But you will see that, in fact, this concept is not totally new. In this presentation, so first of all, I will introduce the OSD concept itself. I will make a particular focus on the flight crew. And in the third part, way forward, I will explain you who is concerned by the OSD and when. So let's start with the OSD concept. And first of all, let's define what is the operational certification. The operational certification aims at closing the gap between the design certification and the operations. So between the manufacturer, Airbus, and you operators. The operational certification, we can say, covers two different domains. The aircraft operational capability, for instance, EFBs, and also the operational suitability data, that is for flight crew, cabin crew, master minimum equipment list, and simulator data. So, in fact, operational certification provide elements for you to obtain and to maintain a given operational approval. One of the objectives of this operational certification is to contribute to safe and efficient operations. Another one is to keep all the data up to date, and this is part of the continued validity of data. In fact, all along the life of the aircraft, we have to ensure all together, us as manufacturer, but as well you as operator, we have to ensure that all the data remain up to date. And I will come back on that later on. So, today I will focus in particular on the OSD part. So, all of you are coming from everywhere around the world, and the question is, do we share a common regulatory framework? Unfortunately, the answer is no. But if we look at the flight crew as an example, we can see that we have, for EASA and FAA, a similar process. We have as well with some authorities like Transport Canada, ANAC in Brazil, CAC in China, equivalent processes. And for other national authorities, most of the time they use or they rely on EASA or FAA data to make their own validation. So you see, even if we don't have a common regulatory framework, all the data are shared and somehow common. If we look at, in particular, the two main processes, the European one and the American one, we can see that, in fact, they are very similar, very close. I will not enter into detail, but you can see both are covering the design certification, the operational certification, and the operations. However, we can notice that there are some differences, and in particular for the flight crew, we can see that at European level, the EASA level, the OSD, provide requirements and recommendations. It means mandatory data and acceptable means of compliance, while the Flight Standardization Board, FSB, on the FAA side, provides only recommendations. Now, let's focus on the European regulation. And I told you at the early beginning, it is not totally new. You probably know, or you probably remember, that in the past we were using the Operational Evaluation Board or Joint Operational Evaluation Board process. At that time, it was a voluntary process on request on the manufacturer, and the main objective was to avoid duplication of demonstration at national levels. taking the benefits of this process, since January 2014, the European regulation has amended the initial airworthiness with the regulation 69/2014, and now it becomes the operational suitability data concept, OSD concept. The difference is that right now this process is mandatory for European operators. But the main objective, avoiding duplication of demonstration at national level, is still there. So, in terms of role and responsibilities, with this change, Airbus, as manufacturer, is now responsible of the design certification, as before, and also of the operational certification. Both design and operational certifications are part of the type certificate of the aircraft. For the end users, what the regulation named the end users, so it is you, operators, training organization, maintenance organization, you have to get your approval before starting your operation. It is the case for European operators, and it is as well the case for non-European operators, as far as your national authority comply with this process or apply an equivalent process to the OSD1. If we look at more in detail the basic regulation on the EASA side, the relevant parts applicable for the manufacturer Airbus as type certificate holders are the initial airworthiness, the Part 21, and some certification specification. There are 4: flight crew data, cabin crew data, a master minimum equipment list, and simulator data. On your side, you have to comply with continuing airworthiness, aircrew, and air operations, and all the subsequent parts highlighted on this slide. So we can see that, in fact, this OSD concept is covering multiple domains. They are flight crew, cabin crew, simulator, maintenance certifying staff, and minimum equipment list. Just a remark, at that time, simulator data are not yet developed by Airbus. It will come in the future, and maintenance certifying staff, there is no data so far. The regulation is still under development in some parts. Right now, let's focus on the flight crew part. Again, back to the basic regulation, you have understand that we have to develop the flight crew data on the basis of the CSFCD. And those data are for you, operators and training organization, the elements to obtain and to maintain a given operational approval. You have to use the data provided by the manufacturer, provided by Airbus. If we look at the equivalent on the American side, FAA, the equivalent to the CSFCD is the Advisory Circular 12063 Bravo. And the good news is that we have identical definitions and criteria on both sides, and as I showed you before, we have a similar process. So most of the time, we can work jointly on the same exercise, EASA and FAA, and we can get the approval at the same time. The interesting part for you is what can you find in the flight crew reports. So typically in the OSD flight crew reports, you will find some mandatory data requirements. You have to comply with those data. There is no choice. There are, for instance, the aircraft type designation, the pilot license endorsement, the operator difference requirements, ODR, the training area of special emphasis, TAS, and the credits for single and mixed fleet flying operation. Also, you will find some acceptable means of compliance. They are just recommendations. Typically, you will find the type rating course overview, what we call usually the footprint, and you will find also some training requirements for specific operations, for instance, for low visibility operations. So if we look at in details, aircraft type designation and license endorsements. Here we have the example of the A350. and we can see that the A330 and the A350 are assigned a single license endorsement. This is why now on our license we have the mention A330/A350 for the type rating and as well for the instructor qualification. This does not mean that you are qualified on the A350. Of course, you have to do the training. Operator difference requirements table. An ODR is a mean of compliance for the aircraft type rating determination. It has to be used and customized by you, operators, training organization, when you are developing your difference training program. I will not enter into detail today. There is a dedicated presentation tomorrow on this particular topic. Training area of special emphasis, what we call TAS, to make it simple. What they are? They are high-level training requirements regarding knowledge and or skills, and they are compulsory for pilot training. Here we have an example that is applicable to all fly-by-wire aircraft. They are, in fact, key elements that shall be part of the training, whatever the training is, full type rating or shortened one. Credits for single and mixed fleet flying operations. In fact, in the report, you will find credits for training. It will tell you if you can apply for cross-crew qualification or common type rating between two types, and as well you will find credits for currency and recent experience. Most of the time, this is the number of takeoff and landings required per type within a certain period. Once again, there is a dedicated presentation on this topic tomorrow. I will explain you how we can achieve, how we can demonstrate the credits for single and mixed fleet flying operations. As an acceptable means of compliance, so just as a recommendation, we have as well the course overview, what we call usually the footprint. This one is a high-level syllabus. It just gives you the big picture of the training, and this big picture is the one used by Airbus at the time of the demonstration. However, it is up to you to decide either to follow this syllabus or to propose another one to your authority. Now, let's go forward and let's explain the applicability of the OSD concept. Question is, who is concerned by the operational suitability data? First of all, let's start by Airbus at the manufacturer level, because we are the responsible of the data. So there was a transition period before December 2015. It was a transition period for us to become compliant with OSD requirements. This is what we call the grandfathering period, and at that time we upgrade all existing OOBs or GOBs reports to become compliant to OSD reports. This transition period is over, and now we are managing the changes of existing OSD. It is for design change, follow-up of in-service events, and any addition of cross-crew qualification that are not yet demonstrated. So, if we look at the applicability to a given aircraft, we have to comply with this diagram. So, to make it simple, for aircraft out of production, the OSD is not required. This is the case for the Airbus 300, the Airbus 300-600, the Airbus 310, and the Airbus 340. For aircraft still in production, the A320 and all the variants, the A330 and the A380, we had a transition period to become compliant to OSD. This period is over, and now we are. Again, I remind you that maintenance certifying staff data and simulator data are not yet in the scope. For the particular case of the Airbus A350, as well, we are compliant. Just as an information, we applied to the OSD process as a voluntary pilot case, and it was an agreement with the authority, the EASA, to test the process and to see how it works. And at the end, we demonstrated that the OSD process works very well. For future aircraft to come in the future, it is obvious we will have to be compliant with the OSD before entry into service. There is no more any transition period. For aircraft in between, the Airbus A320neo, the Airbus A330neo to come, and the Airbus A350-1000 to come as well. In those cases, we are proceeding to change to existing OSD. This is part of the data we have to change and to keep up to date, part of the continued validity. So, as an answer to this diagram for the applicability, the Airbus answer is this one. For aircraft out of production, Airbus has decided to comply to OSD requirements for master MMEL for the Airbus 300 and the Airbus 310. We have decided to be compliant in all domains for the Airbus 340, so we have data for type certification, master MMEL flight crew data and cabin crew data, and of course for all aircraft in production, we are fully compliant. So, back to this slide. Now, what is for you operators, and especially for the European operators, what do you have to do? Where have you to be compliant? In fact, as well for you, there is a transition period ongoing until December 2017, and during this period, if you update a training, an existing training, or if you update a single or a mixed fleet flying operation, you have to apply the existing OSD. Also, if within this period you introduce in your fleet a new type or a new variant, for instance, if tomorrow you introduce the Airbus A320neo in your fleet, you have to comply with the OSD without any transition period. After December 2017, compliance will be mandatory without any delay for everybody. For non-European operators, and once again you are a lot here today, in fact it depends. If your national authority has adopted the OSD concept, you will have to comply with this transition phase. A few words about the continued validity of data I mentioned before. So, as I said, Airbus as manufacturer, we have to consider any design change, we have to follow up any in-service event, and we have to upgrade any training that are not yet demonstrating. This is part of the initial airworthiness, part 21. But as well for you, operators and training organization, you have a role to play in this process. According to the Part ORO or the Part ORA, you have to report to Airbus any inaccurate or incomplete information towards Airbus. This is how we maintain the continued validity of data. And this is, by the way, how we enhance the safety and we promote the efficiency. Well, where to find the reports? Before December 2015, we were using, and you were using as well, OOB's or GOB's reports. They were available on the EASA website, like that. Since this date, the OSD reports are now under the responsibility of the manufacturer, Airbus, so they are no more available on the EASA website. You have to go on Airbus World in the specific airworthiness and certification library, and here you will find all the reports you may need. As a conclusion on this short introduction, operational suitability data is making the link between the design and the operation, is defining mandatory and acceptable means of compliance, is approved at least by the EASA and time to time by your authority, depending on the process they consider. They are kept up to date and available on Airbus World. This is part of the continued validity of data. And don't forget, they are for you, they are for us, they are for all the stakeholders. They are here to enhance the safety and to promote the efficiency. Thank you.